Welcome back to the Bluegrass, and it's beautiful Saturday afternoon. We are out for a walk, and on this walk we have a couple of things that we're working on. Number one, you will notice that I am holding a pole pruner because I have to get up in some trees and limb some trees today. We have to get all of our work on our pre-adventure area wrapped up early this fall because we just bought a new farm, and it's going to be super awesome. It's like our pre-adventure area, only 100 times larger, and it's on the Kentucky River. So we hope to have some really super adventures for you coming up over the next few months. The other thing that we're doing is we are observing these dogs. This is what we call an observation walk because, you know, we get a lot of dogs in, and we're usually pretty familiar with the dogs and kind of their home life situations before they arrive, because in my system, when you sign up, I share a video library with you, and then I expect you to do a little bit of preparation work before you come to the kennel, and you have to journal your experiences doing the preparation work. I mean, it's kind of an involved process all in all, but still, even though I'm getting all that information, it doesn't translate perfectly from two-dimensional format, you know, watching it on the computer or reading a journal, to being out here in real life, okay? So when dogs get here, you know, the owners they've told us a lot about what they feel works well with their dog or doesn't work well with their dog. They told us a lot about what they consider the strengths and weaknesses of their individual dogs. But there's nothing like seeing it in person, you know? And when I say seeing it in person, what we were working with when you're a dog trainer, what every dog trainer is working with, is we're trying to remove impediments that keep people from being happy with their dogs, right? And so on the one hand, I have to look at a family situation and see how much energy and time and knowledge that the family has to direct towards the dog training. But on the other hand, I got to look at the breed, the specific type, and the breed specific tendencies that dogs have to see if they fit into their situation well. We run into a lot of square peg round hole problems, and what I mean by that is we run into a lot of problems where, you know, people just have the wrong dog for where they live, and those are kind of hard to deal with, you know. But for most of these dogs, most of these dogs are pretty cool, and they live in environments that are fairly conducive to the type of dogs they are as far as being happy with them. But we want to know, you know, we want to know what the dogs would be like if they were in the perfect environment. And my dog training kennel is basically the perfect environment for, you know, socializing, exercising, and keeping puppies. And so, I mean, we come out here and you can see like how much work we put into having a nice pre-adventure area. And we come out and we let these dogs follow the mentor dogs around and engage in physically and mentally demanding activities. And that way we can kind of see, you know, what are their tendencies. Look, there's a Jack Russell right there. Here's a lab, and this lab's mine. Here's my daughter's Jack Russell. Somewhere around here we have a Weimaraner. Look here, here's a Weimaraner. And there's a couple of white labs. Of course, they're not mine because, you know, I would only have black labs. And what else do we have, cameraman? There's a couple of Australian Shepherds running around here. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a little work, and we're going to observe out of the corners of our eyes, because trust me guys, when people are looking right at you, I call that the police in the rearview mirror effect. You always act different when you know you're being watched. So I like to bring the dogs out while we're working and see what the dogs would be like. You know, how well would they adapt to a situation where like they have plenty of room to run and a positive peer group, even if their owners aren't watching them. All right, George, go ahead and get that fire built up. I'm gonna go over here and limb up these other trees real quick. All right, guys, so we got George working on the fire, working on campfire safety tonight. You know, we like to make our work as pleasurable as possible, right? So we want to have a good time. We want the dogs to have a good time. And if we can roll that all in together, then training goes very smoothly. But back to what we were talking about in terms of having an observation day. Like as I'm walking around here and working on limbing up these trees, you can see these dogs running around. And what kind of information that gives me is that kind of gives me a good idea of like the dog's overall energy output, their energy endurance, and their recharge rates. Because we'll be out here for a few hours because we're going to do some campfire stuff. You know, we're going to make some s'mores and do some hot dogs and stuff. And what happens is the dogs will periodically lay down and kind of recharge their batteries. And so that's what we're looking for. Which ones lay down first and how long do they stay laid down for, you know? Now what you'll kind of notice is we got a couple of Jack Russells and this darker colored Australian Shepherd that like you'll see them come in and out of the frame all the time, but like They don't settle down too fast, you know. Now, the white labs, I don't know where they've got off to. They're probably over there with Charlotte or something, or George. But like, you know, they came out, and this is the reason people like those good-looking labs, is they've got enough energy. Oh, here's one right here. He's a good dog. They've got enough energy to kind of come out and hang out and have a good time. And but they don't have so much energy that it's hard to keep up with them, whether you're at home in the suburbs or you're like out on a camping excursion. You know, I mean, they're just good, like middle of the road dogs. Now, I don't know if you can see this, cameraman, but hey, Tucker, come on. Let me see. I was trying to get those two dogs to come over here because Tucker has got a stick. You see him gallop into the thing, and he has basically worn all these other dogs out by getting sticks, and he goes up to them and he either gets them to chase them or he gets them to play tug of war with them. And you might say, well, Stonnie, that seems like an awesome dog. Listen, Tucker is an awesome dog. He is an awesome farm dog. But remember what my job is? My job is to remove impediments between, you know, that are standing in the way of people being able to do lots of fun stuff with their dog. But with Tucker, we got a unique situation because his owner lives in a nice house, not much of a yard, has a 5-year-old child, a 3-year-old child, and a child being born this week. So our prayers going out to her. And like, listen, having 3 young kids and a farm dog in the suburbs, that's a tall order. So, you know, our normal thing, what do I talk about on this channel all the time, is exercise, exercise, exercise. Well, exercise is kind of tough when you've got 3 little kids, you know, because you're taking care of little kids all the time. And so we have to customize. Even though we run a system here, and our system is primarily, you know, focused on, you know, exercise and positive reinforcement activity and lots of dog socialization. Obviously, we're going to have to do some tailoring if we're going to be successful with Tucker where he lives. Now, Max here, he's going to be super successful because his owner's older, a little bit older fella. He's retired, and he owns a business, so he can just drag Tucker around with him wherever he wants to go, you know, and that's pretty cool. Oakley, the other Australian Shepherd that you keep seeing coming in and out of the frame, her owner owns a farm, and so like with Oakley, all we have to do with Oakley is make sure. Let me show you guys something cool. Like, see there, I was trying to saw that because I was being lazy. The neat thing about these big Fiskars pruners is they have a saw, but watch, they also have a lopper. So right there, I was trying to be lazy and not lop that, but dang. That's cool. I'm a big kid. I love all these tools, you know. But like I said, I'm just walking around here, lopping some limbs, sawing some limbs, and making sure that these dogs are you know, like I'm getting an idea of what it's going to take to make them be successful. And as I'm watching Oakley, the Australian Shepherd, I'm like, okay, it ain't going to take us much to help her be successful because she's about the perfect farm dog. So we just got to teach her a little bit of come, let's go, hup, easy, wait, and stay. But watching Tucker, the other Australian Shepherd, I'm going to have to be really creative. I'm going to have to come up with some innovative ways for his owner to keep him mentally and physically stimulated. Now, the little Jack Russells, one of them is my daughter's, so obviously it's going to be pretty easy to fool with. And the other is a dog that's been here before, belongs to a lady I know who owns a farm and does a lot of horse riding. And this little Jack Russell is perfect, I mean absolutely perfect when it's out here with us, but it's given its owner a little bit of problem, and primarily the problem stem from this Jack Russell not being exactly like the last Jack Russell that the owner had. Now, that's a big problem we run into in the dog business. Like, people will get a dog and they compare it to the last dog that they had. Listen, your current dog is not your last dog. It's a different dog. It's a unique individual, and so you have to customize the, you know, your training system and your expectations based on that individual dog. You know, it's not fair to have a new dog and hold them to the same standard that you held your last dog, at least when it comes to like exact behavior traits, because like that's just not gonna work out to your advantage, you know. Now, so we're gonna just kind of limb up this tree here, clear us out a couple of little spots. dogs like to get in here and lay under these trees. So we kind of come back here every so often and make sure that they've got good spots to lay. Now, where is that Weimaraner? Loki, come on, Loki. Let's see if we can get him to come up. And, we'll talk about him for a second. He's a pretty interesting dog. You don't see too many Weimaraners on my channel for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're really, I don't know where he's went. We've lost him. Here he comes. All right. Oh, you're such a good dog, Loki. Number one, they got really thin ears, right? Okay. And so around here, you guys saw last month, the dog kind of lost part of his ear. But around here, everything we do is so rough and tumble. You know, we're out here in the creek and the briars and everything else. And dogs that have thin skin, or dogs that, have, thin ears. Because see, the ears are especially vascular. So if another dog kind of, grabs the ear or something and it rips and it bleeds all over the place. It's just one of the bad parts about trying to run an adventure-based dog training camp. It's just kind of weird stuff happens. But the owner of Loki seemed pretty reasonable, so I said I would take him. And he's doing great. He's one of the best Weimaraners I've seen, to be honest with you, in terms of just being able to pal around. He pretty much hangs out with these labs. Now, you'll notice he kind of comes in and out of the frame a little bit more than the labs because he's a bird dog. And bird dogs are bred to run off and find birds, and then you're supposed to come find them. And again, what's that, kind of illustrative of? That's illustrative of the, typical square peg, round hole problem, right? People will get a Weimaraner, and they'll kind of wonder why they're impulsive, why they dart off across the street, why they don't pay attention perfectly. Well, I mean, that's not what you want. I was talking about, like in the dog business, if I start a dog training school, which I'm thinking of doing, like I was telling you, how important it is, I believe, for the dog training school to have like a big portion of the school dedicated to blue collar skills. Another thing, and this is hard in the dog business because a lot of people that like dogs, they don't like people very much. But you have to learn to understand people, and you have to learn to understand how to explain things to people that's not always immediately evident to themselves, right? Okay, so people will buy a certain kind of dog because that's the image they see themselves, right? And you got to explain to them, well, okay, that's an image, but that image doesn't necessarily match up with your lifestyle. So like with Loki, he's a bird dog. And so first thing I ask his owner is like, listen, if you want to come here, we do a lot of exercise. Do you have a place to exercise the dog? And she's like, oh yeah, we've got 2 farms. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool, he can come. That same week, somebody else contacted me with a Weimaraner. And if you're watching this channel, I hope you're not still mad at me, but they wanted to come here. And, we talked about what they would be willing to do in terms of exercise and where they lived. And they lived kind of in an urban environment and they couldn't do much exercising. And I was like, well, listen, my program is not going to work for you because like you live in a suboptimal environment and you have a suboptimal, work schedule for managing that kind of dog. So in those cases, I defer to dog trainers who, deal with those kind of issues more. For me, I'm like, look, this is the kind of dog you have. I can teach you how to manage it properly in a way that matches its breed-specific characteristics. Okay, like see those 2 dogs running around here. I can't change them though, So there has to be a certain amount of give and take if you're going to do my style of training. But does that mean that there are not other ways to manage those dogs? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that that's not what we do here, And so I think dog training schools ought to all have a big portion of the curriculum dedicated towards, talking to people, having sometimes unpleasant conversations, and also, teach people that in the dog business, if you want to be successful over the long haul, if you want to have good reviews, if you want to have a good reputation in the business, you have to be willing to walk away from a deal if the deal's not the right deal for you. Isn't that right, cameraman? And And you might say, well, Stonnie, how do you know all that? Did you go to Harvard Business School? You sound kind of like you went to Harvard Business School. Believe it or not, I didn't. Okay, I've just made all of those mistakes in the past. And me laying this saw down here is the kind of thing that also I know not to do, but I did it anyway, and the cameraman's giving me a bad look. So, like when you're working with equipment, you need to take care of your equipment a little better. Cameraman, we're gonna head up that way and finish those limbs on the four-wheeler trail. Now, okay, so it's getting kind of dark, so I'm gonna have to wrap this video up. But here's what I want you to do below. Back on up there a little, cameraman, so you can see the dogs over there too, right? See all these dogs, and you see how they've been running around, how they've been playing, and you see the different breeds. We got, I brought out Jack Russells, Australian Shepherds, and White Labs. I want you to comment below and tell me what you think the difference is going to be in terms of how I approach training each of these dogs over the course of this month. Now, for all of you familiar with this channel, you know I run a system, right? Okay, and my system's primarily based around lots of exercise, lots of structured activities, but how am I going to tailor my advice for each of these dogs' owners? That's what I want to see if you guys get right down below. We'll see how many of you really pay attention when I make videos. Because sometimes the videos that I think are the most awesome, they don't get any views. And then the videos that I think are not very good at all, they get tons of views. And if you listen to the kind of the YouTube creator studio, what they tell you to do is just, you know, double down on whatever trending topics there are and, you know, ride that trend out. Guys, I'm not a trendy person. I'm a professional dog trainer that runs a very specific system that I've developed over decades of work in the business. And that's why you see me out here actually working at my facility. You see me training dogs. You don't see me just with a green screen or like with one dog talking about what I know, okay? You see me doing it every single day. I'm not a technique collector, and I don't really like technique collectors. You know, when you go back and look at somebody's body of work, and what they do changes, what their advice is changes. I don't ever trust those people. I like masters. You know, I'll take a master of what I consider an inferior technique over a non-master of the new cutting edge techniques any day. You know, people ask me that all the time. They're like, Stonnie, what about this guy in my area? I'm thinking about going to this dog trainer, but he uses traditional dog training, and I hear that's bad. Guys, I will take a traditional leash and collar trainer that's a master of his or her craft over somebody who's been to every click and treat seminar, who's been to every electric collar seminar available for the last 10 years, but it's not a master of their craft, right? Okay. You have to learn to find a master of their craft and then learn the system the way they teach you, okay? Because the bottom line is, in the digital age, technique collection is very easy, right? It's very easy for somebody. Doesn't matter whether they're a strength coach or a sports coach, dog trainer. You know, what I crack up about is all the like investment advisors. So everybody's an investment advisor, you know. Like they just go out and they just copy other people's work. They collect techniques, you know. Look at the body of their work. See if they're really putting in the kind of effort and they have the kind of experience that shows you that they're an expert at running their system. Because we're experts at running our system, and we do not take dogs that don't fit into our system, you know. And that's why I stay on track with all these videos. And that's why I try to show you guys like what we actually do here each week, you know. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm anxious to hear how many of you, you know, like have ideas about how I'm going to tailor specifically my system to these individual dogs and their individual circumstances. I'll see y'all next week.